In this lesson, we are going to learn about equivalent fractions. We will first use fraction factory blocks to discover how we can find equivalent fractions, and then we will use a strategy on paper. So the fraction we're going to find other fractions that are equivalent to is 3/4. Each of these black blocks represents a whole piece. Each of these pink blocks represents 1/4 or 1/4. So if I wanted to make the fraction 3/4, I would need 3 of these pink blocks lined up on the whole piece. So that represents 3/4. I want to know how many eighths is equivalent to 3/4. So I'm going to look at fraction pieces that represent 1/8. Which are the brown pieces. So I'm going to use these brown eighth pieces to fill in my whole piece until I fill up as much space as the top one, which is 3/4. I filled in exactly the same amount of space as up here, and I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. They take up the same amount of space. I now want to use my fraction factory blocks to figure out how many 12ths it would take to make the same equivalent fraction as 3/4. So these white pieces are the 12ths. I'll keep adding on 12ths until I take up the same amount of space as 3/4. All right, so I have the same space filled in, so they're both equivalent fractions. And I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 12ths. So 9/12 is equivalent to 3/4. Now we're going to look at another way to make equivalent fractions. So imagine in this example, we had a pie and we ate 3 out of those 4 pieces of pie. We have another pie that's the same size, but it's cut up into 8 pieces. So I want to figure out how many pieces I would eat if I ate the same amount of pie as from the first pie. I need to color in the same amount of space. So that's the same amount of space as 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. So altogether, I ate 6/8 of this pie. Another strategy we have when finding equivalent fractions is to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same number in order to keep things equivalent or the same. So in this example, I need to figure out, how did I make 4 into 12? So I know from my multiplication facts 4 times 3 equals 12. If I multiply the denominator by 3, in order to keep things equivalent, I have to do the same thing to the numerator. So 3 times 3 gives me 9. And so I know 3/4 is equivalent to 9/12. Let's try a couple more examples to find more equivalent fractions. So we want to figure out 2/5 is equivalent to how many 30ths? Using the same strategy we just talked about, I know to get from 5 to 30, I have to multiply 5 by 6. In order to keep these fractions equivalent, if I multiplied the denominator by 6, I must multiply the numerator by 6. And 2 times 6 equals 12. So 2/5 is equivalent to 12/30. They would take up the same amount of space. The fifths would be bigger pieces and the 30ths would be smaller pieces. To figure out 10/14 is equivalent to how many sevenths, we have to figure out what we did to make 14 to 7. It's getting smaller, so I know I'm dividing. And 14 divided by 2 equals 7. Same thing to the numerator. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 10/14 is equivalent to 5/7. In this example, we want to know 20/25 is equivalent to 4 something. So from 20 to 4, I had to divide by 5. So if I divided the numerator by 5, same thing with the denominator. 25 divided by 5 is equal to 5. So 20/25 is equivalent to 4/5.